The name of her forbidden lover was the last word she uttered as she screamed in anguish before sinking to the bottom of the pool. Today we will dissect the haunting and tragic love story that even today has many believing the young woman's soul is trapped and still searching for her long-lost love. Unfortunately, this also means that many men have drowned in her quest. This is Devil's Pool, Australia. It is said that a beautiful young girl named Ulana was promised from birth to marry a respected elder called Warunu from the tribe Yindinji. The day was filled with celebration and many people danced to honour the couple. But on this day, a passing tribe came by which also brought a young warrior named Daiga into the young girl's life. It was said to be love at first sight for them both. But as she was now married, any kind of dalliance would be seen as a crime. Sadly, their feelings were too strong and they couldn't keep away from each other. So, one evening, they decided to run away together into the valley. Unfortunately, Warunu had gotten wind of their plans and sent many of his men to track them down. And they did. The young couple was grabbed and Ulana had to watch the men drag Daiga off to an uncertain fate. Filled with grief, the young woman got loose from her captors and ran to the edge of the boulders nearby. Hearing the men approaching, she is said to have looked down at the gushing water below and realizing life without Daiga would be unbearable, threw herself to her death, pleading with him to follow her. Many say that Daiga heard her cries and followed her to his death. The strange thing is that as his body hit the pool, her tormented cries turned the still waters into a treacherous torrent. Neither body was ever found, and in death, they were never reunited. Reports say that for many years after their deaths, men from her tribe would die or become sick after travelling near that stretch of water. Some also claim to see her reflection and hands reaching out to pull others down into the waters below. Aboriginal legend states that even to this day, her spirit guards the boulders and her cries for her long-lost love are still heard. The elders call the haunted spot the washing machine due to the undercurrent that makes it almost impossible to escape when you're in its grasp. So let's look at the many deaths that have tragically occurred at the Devil's Pool. First thing worth noting is that since 1959, the spot has claimed at least 19 lives, with all but 2 being men. In several of the cases, witnesses have commented that the victims seemed to be pulled and held under the water as if by ghostly hands. The most recent lives taken were a father from Brisbane named Shannon Hoffman, aged 37, on October 19th, 2020. His body was found 200 metres from where he'd originally been swimming. 7 months prior to this, one of the very few lady victims died, called Madison Tam, aged just 18. It's said she only went paddling in the pool and was somehow sucked under into a chute. Sadly, it pulled her down to a depth of 8 metres and she couldn't break free. Now, the death that was the breaking point for locals was that of 23-year-old James Bennett, who was killed in 2008. He was apparently swimming with 3 of his friends and the waters were reported as being calm at the time. Suddenly, out of nowhere, James was pulled backwards by what was described as an invisible force towards the rapids at the end of the pool. Onlookers claim that he fought to stay above water, even grabbing hold of a passing branch, but sadly it snapped. His friends tried desperately to reach him, but all they could see was the tips of his fingers. He was found dead 3 days later. The sign that was put up afterwards reads as follows: "This creek has claimed many lives. Wet rocks are extremely slippery. Beware of rapidly rising water levels. Do not swim in Main Creek downstream of this point. This track leads to lookouts only. For your safety, keep to walking track provided." Even before records on Devil's Pool, there were newspaper reports showing earlier deaths. According to one article in the Cairns Post, a man named T. Winterbottom was swept away in 1933, with another from 1940 describing the drowning of an 8-year-old boy called John Dominic English. There is so much death in this area, but it would appear you don't have to be in the water to feel its wrath. Aboriginal locals talk about how one man disrespected a memorial plaque by kicking it, and then, without warning, he vanished. While there is also a report of a young couple standing together on the rock platform looking out at the gorgeous view when, without warning, the waters rose rapidly, grabbing the couple into its depths. The woman survived, the man sadly did not. The death list goes on and on over the years. It truly is a haunting place, with police diver Peter Tibbs saying that one of the cases he was called to was most interesting and that he had already been called out to the area 3 times to retrieve bodies. He stated, "We thought we knew he was in there, but we couldn't get to the body because the water is so cold. It's deep and it flows fast." It seems that divers went down numerous times, and when they managed to retrieve the body, it had been missing for almost 6 weeks. Even with all the death and sadness that is associated with this spot, Babinda Boulders is still a popular place to visit. It has been given a 4.7-star rating on TripAdvisor and is open 24 hours, with Devil's Pool only a 10-minute walk away from the main camping ground and swimming area. But as you scroll the hundreds of reviews stating what a beautiful, magical place it is, you will find warnings too. Things like, "Read the legend of the pool. It's beautiful but dangerous," and "Don't swim in Devil's Pool." They sound like sound pieces of advice, especially as many visitors have said to have seen her reflection in the waters and heard her haunting cries. There is one sad memorial plaque at the site that truly sums Devil's Pool up. It says, "He came for a visit and stayed forever."